It is Sunday, the weekend of December 17th, and welcome back to the Trader Hub Weekly Market Review. Let's go ahead and look at the price action for the indexes this week, starting with the NQ. Man, I think we predicted last week that it could potentially come back down a little bit more or just blast through. It looked like it kind of wanted to move higher, and then we got our pop last Friday, and we've just had continuation this whole time on the NASDAQ. So, at this point, we are above this level that we had drawn from the fib retracement all the way back from the previous all-time high to the most recent long-term swing low in 22, and we are actually closed above that. So you kind of saw that once we got there, it sort of petered out a little bit, but it's still moving up, sort of a drift of death kind of look. Although it is only a few days, anything could happen. Let's make the chart a little bit cleaner there. If you were looking at this intraday on Friday, I think that would probably have been a good short, and then you would probably have wanted to get out of there after you saw this sort of higher low look going into that. But, the thing to remember is if we're going to stay above this fib level, the previous all-time high, we're in blue sky. We don't know how high this could go, but we have been saying for quite some time that things did look bullish even when people were really, really afraid. Even down here we said maybe things could go back down more, but it would still be a higher low look. And we've confirmed that after breaking over this major three-leg down consolidation, and now we're back to the highs. So truth be told, we're kind of extended in terms of weeks in a row green. Doesn't mean that we can't move higher. There could be a bit of a pullback here, but at the point we are now, we've gained above the previous all-time high. I don't really see any reason that we should be bearish in the short or the long term. What do you think, Bryce?
Well, I think on the daily here, there is definitely some space for a little bit of a pullback. But also, if it goes sideways, we could see the longer time frames confirm closes up here, and that's just more. The longer it goes sideways, the more likely it's just going to go straight up. So,
I think the same.
I don't think it's gonna drop very low if it were, but there is some support in there. It's pretty easy to see on the daily, in my opinion, where you'd want to be buying. Up.
Yeah, well, and when I say that I don't see any reason to be bearish in the short or the long term, I mean a significant drawdown. I think you're totally spot on with this area. Not saying that it even has to go all the way down here to, what is that, 16,100-ish, but that is the perfectly logical area to take along there. If you miss this rally and need to get in, that's a great spot. Let's go ahead and look at the ES. Similar look, although it has yet to break over its previous all-time high. So it's kind of catching up with the NASDAQ, though it's not very far off. Similar look to me here. No reason to expect that we won't hit all-time high. Doesn't mean that we can't come down. Again, this 45, 70-ish level is probably the quintessential look for a long, if it ends up coming back to that point. Not much else to say that's different than the NQ. I see it going back up, even if there is some bit of pullback, and I think we'll break to new highs. See anything different?
No, not really. It's about to be all-time high. That's the only difference. Is that it's not yet, but it will be. The question is, where exactly is that? And yeah, you're right. This zone right in here is exactly where you want to be looking on like the 4-hour. If it were to pull back, that's what you'd be looking for. Look, you see that?
Yeah, and there's even a gap there on the 4-hour and tons of consolidation just below it. That's the ideal level to take along if it ends up coming back there.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, yeah, not much else to say on those. They look pretty similar. Why don't you walk us through the RTY? It's had a pretty interesting week.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the let's actually pull it over here. You can see on the weekly here that it's made a higher high, and it's finally been able to come up to this level that we've had identified as the next one that we wanted to see tested before we see this higher level at 2100. And that 2100 is the zone or the area where it was lost to produce the down leg here. So once we see that gained, that is confirmation that we will expect all-time highs. I mean, we already see the beginnings of it here, but that will be the confirmation when we achieve this area up in here. On the daily, you can see how it basically came right up through this resistance. So that is flipped to support and would be a good area if we did see it pull back a little bit here after the long run up here.
Yeah, I mean, I see similar to you. I mean, and it's nice to see, just for our, sake, our level that was identified got touched and pulled back. That tells us that we were pretty spot on with that. Like we've kind of been saying about the other indexes and this one as well, it's had a good run. We could see a little bit of cooling off before higher, but like you pointed out, this is a higher high compared to the other previous attempts to reach this level. They never quite made it there, and now we have. So, this was a classic instance of needing to kind of go lower than the previous lows to slurp up all the orders here, those stop losses from everyone who was in at the previous lows, and then just take that liquidity to move higher. So, I think that this makes total sense why we'd see this. Could cool off and then run back up, or just blast through if there's enough buying pressure, but there's no reason to think that we're going to go back to the lows anytime soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go ahead and look at gold. What do you think of that?
I think it's doing expected things, especially on like the 4 hour. We did see it kind of come down below this level here on the daily, but we're back up in that area. Let me make this look a little better here.
Sure, yeah.
So the level we wanted to see gained has been gained, and we want to just see it keep this 4 hour trend towards the up. I think we both agree that it can come down just a little bit further while keeping its upward momentum. You really don't want to see it come back down below the 1990s. We want to see a higher low here formed to come back up and test this 2080 range. What do you think?
Yeah, I see the exact same thing. And the reason that I think that this area is the perfect level to hold is, we've got all those touches on kind of both sides of the line there. You could argue that somewhere in maybe 2012, 2006-ish. But either way, it's kind of a range, right? You see a lot of wicking in there on both sides over time. So that's the area that, even though we broke below it, we've gained above over here at maybe 2050-ish. And even though that would be a good pullback, maybe 25-point pullback, that's the perfect level to take along for another break to all-time high. I see, again, no reason that gold shouldn't be moving back to all-time high. And I think if it can clear that previous all-time high it just made, that it's going to really, really run. Probably closer to 2,300 is my guess.
Right. Yeah.
Cool. Not much else to cover on gold. The Dow, I think that we should talk a little bit about how the Dow is actually the cleanest breakout above its previous all-time high. If you look at the NASDAQ on the weekly or daily chart, you'll see it's had a great parabolic run as well, but it's got a couple of weeks where it had a little bit more sideways movement. No such thing occurring on the Dow. Clean breakthrough, clean follow through as well. Again, new high, blue sky. Not much to say other than, we're extended. We could come back somewhere around the previous all-time high, which would coincide perfectly with this previous touch at the top of the previous consolidation. That would be another great place to take along. 35,800-ish on the Dow would be kind of the level that I would look at. You could argue 35,400-ish, but one other thing that's really interesting is the only thing that we've been hearing over the past few years is AI, tech, all that stuff. And look at the Dow is the one that's making the quickest move away from the bearish consolidation from 22. Pretty interesting that no one talks about this, but that's why we cover it. What do you think?
Yeah, you can see right there on the weekly, not even, this week, but the several weeks before, I think 6 weeks prior to this week, it's just straight up. That's pretty wild. I would expect to see this 30, just below 36,000 hold, and produce higher. I do like that we can come back below this low and still have support right there. That makes a lot of sense to me, as we look for somewhere to buy on a retracement here.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about how we've said that for so many of the indexes. Tinfoil hat, totally not technical analysis. But wouldn't it be funny if we've gotten our Santa rally, as people like to call it? Wouldn't that make sense to just dumps in January or February? It just totally turns that on its head and turns everyone bearish. Oh my gosh, that was it. It was a fake out, and then we rip higher. That's kind of what I think.
Yep.
Total, just a total out there, throw it out there kind of thought. But you know what? I would not be surprised by something like that at all.
Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and look at oil, CL1. It's been doing some interesting things. I think that you and I had talked before about, it has been somewhat disappointing. I think we both wanted a bit of a cleaner move to the highs, but, technically still a higher high up here. And if that ends up being a low or near the low, this is, to me, we've gotten closes kind of above this lower consolidation from previous times. I could still consider this a higher low, unless it kind of, breaks down a little bit more. What I would like to see on oil is I'd like to see it come back to 80 and then pull back again to about 73, 74. That would be a place. If I could see that price action occur, using 74 as like another confirmation of a higher low, I'd be long there. That would look good to me. And then we could kind of begin to feel confident about moving back to our previous calls about oil moving to new highs above 93.50, closer to 100, even higher perhaps. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm looking really far back to September. I really like that it made the higher high here, just barely. But that's why I believe that this higher low has a real good chance of holding here, especially when we look at the lower time frames. It hasn't quite gotten up above the level that we need to, but it is going sideways with decent volume. This isn't super low volume daily candles here. And so, the big boys, if you will, if they wanted it to go lower, it would be going lower, but they don't. So it's going a little sideways right in here. I think that's great confirmation that you can expect higher here. And again, a little pullback, but I like it holding $70, not going lower before we, I would say it'd be more likely to hit 80 than below 70 here.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree for all the reasons you said and the ones that I did as well. It sounds like would you be willing to take a trade around there at 70 if that holds up?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'd like to see it hit 80 and go back to 74 first for me personally, but yeah, I think we both at least expect the same thing, looking for different confirmations. That's cool. What do you think about the dollar?
It did a little move in there. On the weekly, you can see that it did come down and produce another low, but it really looks like a pretty good area to hold here. Again, we could come down even a little bit further, but it's a similar situation to the oil. If you look back, you can see the higher high, and you can kind of expect this higher low to be forming here. So again, that doesn't guarantee that this is the lowest low we'll see on this leg, but these areas in here at 101 and 102 look pretty good for a hold. So I'd be looking at the 4 hour, and you can see how this is forming out, and actually confirming that trend there. So a buy here at 102 is looking pretty good on the 4 hour, which converts pretty well to the weekly chart trends.
Yeah, I see the same as you. One thing I want to point out, and I think you touched on this as well briefly, but it's been kind of a pretty significant and abrupt ride down, but we have made that higher high, as you pointed out. I think that we could go all the way back down to, say, this 101.5-ish area, and if that holds, we could go all the way down there, and that would still be considered a higher low. Forgive me. And then we could, blast back toward our 109.6 target that we've been calling on the dollar for a while. I still firmly believe that we're going to see the dollar move higher. I know there's been a lot of the talk of, the dollar's capitulating, it's moving back down. I don't see that as being confirmed until we lose 100. I think you have to go all the way down there and lose 100 for that to actually occur. Somewhere around there, 99.5. We need to lose that because this previous consolidation, if we look at the monthly, you know, this is kind of where there's this huge place where there was so much time where it tried to break above and couldn't. And even when it did, it never, you know, it confirmed lower. So it took a long time to get back above here. So we know that that area is kind of a major area of interest. So until we lose those levels, I personally think that the dollar's moving higher.
I agree with your with your idea there on the longer time frame.
Let's go ahead and look at the KRE. You know, we've been saying that it needed to gain 45 and then try to, you know, then we could, if we could regain 45, then we could break above the previous high and then run for 56. And that is something that has occurred in a very short order. It's very quick price moves. Even after, you know, this huge move on Wednesday, we actually had a gap up on Thursday, and it actually sold off a bit Friday, but held the low of that area. Doesn't mean that we can't see this come back, but, you know, this is another series of closes above this key area that we wanted to see gained again, and the next area for resistance is up here at 56.50. So, you know, I think we've been saying for a long time that we think KRE is gonna close that gap, and we're starting to see that. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we were saying way back here that we were expecting higher. We did get a little nervous around this area, but it did produce the lower low and then a gain up above it. And you can see that's exactly where it started getting super gappy.
Right.
So that makes quite a bit of sense. And you know, I know this isn't directly in a row, but look at this daily chart, how gappy it is.
It's
to
crazy.
The upside.
I mean, the amount of upward momentum via gaps is undeniable.
So I think 56 is coming sooner than later. I definitely like a pullback just below 50 here on the daily to you know, kind of recharge the longs, but I see 56 coming sooner than later for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I see the same as you. Just to comment on what you were suggesting about, you know, we got a little nervous around here, but you had still identified this area, right? This key area that needed to be gained to potentially restart the trend. And the interesting thing is, not only did we quickly move back up toward it, we actually gapped above and then got 2 closes on the daily. So that was a nice confirmation. So, you know, that's something that was interesting to see, gapping up again and then just going. So
right, and that was the first higher low.
Right, and well, and that was the first area where, you know, you're talking about we started to get a little nervous about that idea. That started to give you more conviction, and okay, maybe we're going to see more highs again pretty soon. And sure enough, here we are. So nice call on that. Anyways, I don't think we have too much else to talk about. Thanks again for tuning in to the Trader Hub Weekly Market Review. If you like this kind of content, sub to the Hub and consider joining our Trader Hub Discord community server. You can find it using our link in the description. We'll see you next week.
See you next time.